Welcome to Zodiac Zeitgeist, where we get into the nitty-gritty discussing everything from pop culture, media analysis, to things like psychology, spirituality, and particularly our favorite, astrology. I'm your host today. My name is Zio.
And I'm Lavender.
And today we have a very simple kind of get to know your host's interview. So Lavender here is my wife. She's going to be my co-host. I thought she'd be the perfect person to ask a handful of questions to pertaining our subject matter at this podcast. And so, Lavender, I only got a few questions for you because I wanted to give you space to talk about whatever came up as relevant and important to you.
You think I'm chatty, don't you?
I mean, I married you for a reason. I've developed really good listening skills since being married to you, is what I'll say. So
he's joking.
I'm not.
He's joking.
I'm literally taking listening. Anyways, so Lavender, our first question is going to be, how did you come to develop not just a skill but an interest in astrology? It's a really big, massive kind of practice and study, and a lot of people never get past everything you need to know about astrology, book in one. So tell me about that journey for you. It's not a normal path.
Well, ironically, my answer is like, I'm a child of the 90s. It was super normal in the 90s to have some passing interest in astrology. Everyone had mood rings, everyone knew their sun sign, and everyone checked their horoscopes along with the comics in the Sunday and Saturday papers, you know?
Where are you from again?
I'm from Toronto.
Oh yeah, in Canada.
Out in Canada.
Yeah, a very different relationship to the 90s here in Texas. Please continue.
I feel like the 90s in Toronto was poppin'. It was all Spice Girls and industrial buildings, and mood rings, and astrology. And because of that, we all knew our sun signs in school. Sometimes our teachers would even draw them on our desks on the first day of school, along our nameplates and stuff. I don't know if you guys ever did that down here where they draw you a pretty little sign for your desk.
Oh no, this is...
No?
My experience is no, not at all.
Is this Canada Core?
Apparently. I grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance and having a moment of silence for Christians to be able to pray in their classroom because...
We are not allowed to pray in our classrooms.
Oh yeah, no, they lobbied for it out here. It was like a big deal. My parents were very religious and they voted on it.
We do have a moment of silence every single day for the fallen soldiers, though. Yeah. But to get off the topic of nationalism.
So what got you into astrology?
Astrology, yes. So like I said, we all knew our sun signs, and my sun sign, according to pop astrology, is evil. And
What's your sign?
My sun sign is Scorpio. And for those of you who just went, shock and horror.
I did marry the devil, don't worry.
That's exactly what I grew up with, People going, shock and horror, you're evil, you are the devil. You were born in the month of November, which means you are a cursed child.
You're not a Gemini, as people love to throw shade on them.
Oh, see, that didn't start happening until 2005. I was born in 93. And so all the time that I was going to school, people were like, oh, you're a Scorpio. And then your birthstone is topaz, which really gets you made fun of when you're in school because topaz is the color of urine.
So
this is all relevant. It's all exceptionally relevant.
Yeah, it sounds like being bullied into astrology.
Ironically, I'd say yes, because when people bully me, what I usually do is I learn more about the subject than they do. They know about it, and then I'll come back with more ammo, and then they won't know how to bully me anymore because they'll be talking to an expert.
Okay, so you like to school them at their own game. All right.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
So I would say I got lightly into astrology, but there really wasn't a lot of publicly available material. Even if you went into a little bookstore, a corner bookstore in the middle of nowhere, which a lot of them weren't allowed to sell any good books to children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even then, you'd mostly get books about sun signs, and they'd say a lot of the same stuff that you'd read on the internet or you'd read in the newspaper. And Google didn't really exist until I was 7 years old. So you know.
Child of the 90s.
Child of the 90s.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't until I was like through college, I already had my degree, that I really started to look into astrology, and I went past like looking at the ascending and looking at the moon, and I started to understand what each of the planets actually represented.
Okay. So, kind of leaning in on this and incorporate one of my other questions for you. So, as you learned astrology, I know you already had an interest in media analysis. How did these two things combine for you? Also, what got you into media analysis? Like, where did it start for you?
Okay, so I would say the way these things combine is actually beautifully. You know, like it's a perfect combination in my mind, because so much of media analysis for me, how do I say, I started off going for a degree in film. I thought I wanted to make films, and I was constantly drawn to English literature.
Okay.
And there's a lot of value in the study of film, so none of this is to decry the genre at all, but it is so particular in the study of the art of film itself, as in the visual representations, even the acting, the framing, lighting, so on and so forth. But it doesn't focus on story. And obviously, what is film without story, right? All of its narrative theory, in my personal opinion, was a little shallow. And it was a little surface, probably because so many of like the things that we view on screen are either converted from something that is much more deeper, older, and more considered over time, or was kind of made as a summer like blockbuster, a romp, something fun, but ultimately disposable. I think that's always been a problem with film, is that it's always been seen as kind of disposable. We're not meant to watch the same film over and over and over again, even though there are people that do that and love that. Films are quite literally, especially like old hard copy media, is quite literally not designed to be played over and over and over again. It wears out. But in any case, stories are meant to be worn out. They're meant to be told and retold. They're meant to be passed on to your kids. They're meant to be sung out loud. They're meant to be shared with people, you know what I mean? Across different histories, across different times, across different cultures. Which is why you've got like anthologies that are just different cultures' versions of Cinderella across different times. You've got modern retellings, you've got ancient tellings. You've got Chinese versions, you've got Russian versions, you've got North American versions.
Okay.
And there's something in the myth making of I guess of these old narratives that lends itself really well to astrology. Because when we start thinking about the planets and we start thinking about the signs, these are all representations of these mythic characters and mythic figures. And even mythologized versions of natural phenomenon or just human experiences. And all we're doing throughout media analysis is thinking about different ways to communicate human experiences.
Profound. I've definitely found this very much to be true in my practice of astrology, where history opens itself up, like ancient history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you can't talk about astrology without going all the way back to like Babylonian empires. You know what I mean? And
the first tracking of the sun, even.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I want to say after the Babylonians, it hit the Hindus, or it hit the Egyptians, then it hit the Hindus, and then it hit the Chinese, and then did it hit the Greek after the Chinese? I think it hit the Greek after the Chinese, or the Greeks got it from like the Indians. But like these massive empires are all compiling stories inside of these different kinds of signs and symbols to reflect them. And so like if you really love learning about media, learning astrology and then going back and looking at history through the lens of astrology is it's such a treasure trove.
It really is.
Yeah. And so let me lean in again. What are some of your favorite things to analyze? What are things you love to pick apart? You have like a favorite show, favorite song, favorite TV? Like, what does it for you?
I mean, your question is both broad and specific, ironically. I guess I would say some of my favorite stuff to pick apart is generally music. I wouldn't say I have any specific favorite songs or albums. Sometimes media can kind of feel like once you've chewed it, it might not be that fun to chew again. But it depends on the depth of the media, and it also depends on how much room you give it to breathe. Sometimes you will feel like you've gotten everything you could possibly get from something. Give it 5 years, 10 years, go back and watch it again.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have like a favorite band?
Maybe Opeth.
Oh, solid choice. Yeah. What genre would you say Opeth is in?
Progressive death metal. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Catatonia.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, their Night is the New Day album. Very, very solid, depressing, Swedish, like orchestral music, which, as far as media analysis and astrology goes, if you unpack the history of like the colonization of the Sami people, a lot of the lyrics in their Night is the New Day album, and even The Great Cold Distance, talk a lot about the vocalist who is like grieving love and loss in these divides in culture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like and it comes out. Jonas has a beautiful voice, but to lean back in on topic, right? You've talked about this a little bit. You have Sun in Scorpio. I have a Sun in Taurus. How do you feel your advanced practice of astrology? How long have you been studying it?
It really depends on what you would say is studying. For me, I would say I've only been studying it for maybe 2.5 years. How long have I been interested in astrology? Basically my entire conscious life. However, again, very hard to find a lot of material that I found reliable or trustworthy for a very long time.
Yeah. For me, I can't tell you. I had an aunt who, I grew up very religious. Both my parents were Southern Baptist reverends out here in Texas. They were really hardcore evangelicals to the degree that other people describe my upbringing as very cultic. And so as I began to, I developed a love of philosophy. My dad was always teaching me, religious philosophy. His favorite philosopher was Kierkegaard, which he is a religious existentialist, a German one. But as I learned more philosophy through school and as I engaged with the world, and I even developed my own interest in just religion itself, like Christianity and then Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism, learning, I stumbled upon astrology very early on, and I'd say I've been practicing this since I was about 15 years old, learning about it. I took it a lot more aggressively seriously when I got to college my first go around, back when I was about 19 going on 20, and then, I've been studying it ever since, reading tons of academic texts, tons of historical texts, and then, I've been teaching you for the last 2.5, 3 years, much more intently. Media analysis for me was something I wish I was better at. In fact, I feel like I've gotten a lot better at it since being with you. But I always felt like there are so many loud philosophies being shown through different forms of media. For instance, one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is how DC and Marvel comic books are basically a form of American mythology. Mm-hmm. And not just the very obvious Captain America or Superman or even Batman, you're saying, but very much those who do not belong to a particular religious sect or path inside of America looked towards superheroes to model themselves after. They became akin to bodhisattvas in Buddhism or saints in Catholicism because they were people we could look up to shape ourselves after, to follow in the ways of, and to even imagine in our minds as having us sacred or important knowledge for us to take in and be shaped by.
Absolutely. There are actually some solid essayists that have written about this. And I'd argue that in some ways, baseball players were that for an era before comic books.
Oh, yeah, they were.
Even with the trading cards. And, yeah. And I would also argue that for, you know, maybe our generation and the next generation, Generation Alpha, it might be anime characters.
Oh, it's definitely anime characters.
Yeah.
Like, I can't... working on and off in restaurants and meeting all sorts of people, especially the generation under me. They love them to Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows Naruto, even if you hate it. Which I've seen all of Naruto, and my favorite thing to do is talk crap about Naruto. I even have a Naruto tattoo. But
the downfall of today's youth is that they're not all into Sailor Moon. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate on it? You would give a little taste of some media analysis.
Okay, I will say this. I don't want to talk too much about it because I do feel like it is a detour from our overall topic. But the creator of Sailor Moon said that she basically sat down and thought to herself, what would I want from a group of friends? Who would I want to hang out with? Who do I think is cool and interesting and supportive and kind? What values do I have for friends? And based off of those questions, made a set of characters that are not naturally friends with each other, but are essentially tasked with becoming friends with each other. Who then, through thick and thin, stick together, constantly opening their borders to allow more friends in, and always supporting each other. As opposed to, Naruto.
Yeah, the addiction is shown in conflict, big, special, powerful moves.
I mean, Sailor Moon has all of that.
Well, yeah, but it had always hit notes of like, this is a show about more than that. Truthfully, the only thing deeper in Naruto is you get a bunch of like kind of Japanese Shinto imagery, but there's no plot that really combines everything together. Naruto, especially the second series, the Shippuden, has like 20 plots and none of them get resolved and nothing really even makes sense, to the degree that you can watch their animation quality go from really trash to really, really well for fight scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the focus of the production of the show wasn't about a clear story to tell. It was about like, fight scenes, blowing people up, the anger of Sasuke's grief, and the kind of like foolish love of Naruto for this one and only friend.
I think the danger of something like Naruto is that, okay, so we joke that Naruto has the ability to talk anyone into anything, basically.
Talk no jutsu.
And one of the like media the media dangers of it, the thing that it convinces people to believe that is absolutely not true, is that if you center your feelings in a discussion with someone else, if they're at all good, they will listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, then they are then not good. As opposed to just someone with different concerns, different experiences.
Different values.
Yeah, just a different relationship to reality or this concept than you. And you either didn't put your feelings out there enough, or they're evil. I think that's an awful thing to teach anybody.
Yeah, I have a lot of strong opinions about that. But we will save that for some of our episodes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you answering my questions today and sharing a little bit about your interests and your personal history. I can't wait to get into some really fun conversations with you about some of our favorite TV shows, the most hated TV shows, things that impacted our generation and even the young ones. Thanks for your time. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this interview out. Please tune in for the next episode of Zodiac Zeitgeist. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of really good and interesting conversations. And we're just going to see where things go from there. Thanks.